presence, you can allow nature to take you back to the source, but as it takes you back to the source, you are going to the source with the awareness, full awareness of the beauty, of the sacredness, of whatever you want to call it, full awareness. And then suddenly you have a love of nature and a deep empathy with nature that even the people who lived before the human mind developed into the monster that it has become now, there were people who lived close to the land, close to nature. That was a natural oneness. They didn't even know it because there was nothing else. So natural, simple people who lived close to nature, they didn't know the preciousness of nature, because you can only know the preciousness when you're beginning to lose it. Then it becomes precious. When there is nothing else, then that's just what is. In the same way, if the entire world were painted green, the color green would not exist. You wouldn't know it. So this is having lost, which seems like a tragedy on the one hand, that we lost connectedness. Well, we didn't lose it, but it's our connectedness with being or with the source became obscured. We could say we lost it, and it seems a tragedy, but it's not really, because I believe it was a necessary cycle in the evolution of humanity, because it's only by losing it that you then regain it at a deeper level, and a new level is reached. And that is why we are here. That's the process. But your practice then needs to be, bring your gift to nature. Nature has a lot to give you, but it only can do that if you bring your gift to nature, and that gift is consciousness, awareness. You are there. When you go anywhere in nature, or even in the city street, there will be something, whether it can be the clouds, it can be even be aware of the sun, the sunlight. That's nature too. Acknowledge all these things with your awareness, by bringing awareness to it. And that looks like, one can only say that much about awareness. It needs to be experienced. And what I mean by awareness, you can never understand unless, at least for a moment, you become aware. I could be speaking for weeks about awareness or presence here, and you would not know, conceptually you might know everything about it then. You could write a PhD about awareness or presence without ever knowing what it really is. So let me just demonstrate very simply what awareness is. It's just senses are alert. Visual. Hearing. Even if there's nothing to hear, you can still have an alertness, auditory alertness. And you know what happened, I talked about it at the beginning, the mind becomes still. When you have nothing to hear, there's nothing beautiful, there's just what reigns is awareness. To become aware of what awareness is in yourself is the key. Nature can help you there and speed up this process. But the vital, you don't need anything beyond this moment, you have nature, I said, you carry it around with yourself, in yourself, as this physical form. Awareness is the key. Sometimes it's called attention in some teachings. Doesn't matter. You remember the Zen teacher who would always say, when they asked, okay, please explain the meaning of Zen, he would always go like that. And that was the explanation. Another Zen story, the disciple said to the master, I'm going off somewhere else now, can you just write something down for me so that I remember the essence of the teaching? Obviously he didn't have it yet, otherwise he wouldn't have asked. He still thought it was something memorable. So the teacher wrote on a little piece of paper, whatever they had, attention. And the disciple looks and says, okay, can you just say a little bit more, please? I need a little bit more. And so the master writes something else, and the disciple looks and reads, attention, attention. Oh, well, I wanted just a little bit more. Can you just write something else? And then the master writes, and then the disciple reads, attention, attention, attention. So the disciple becomes a little bit frustrated, and well, I know that now, the disciple says, but what does attention mean anyway? And the master says, attention means attention. Oh, that's the end of the story. Whether he got it or not, we don't know. This attention is the vital thing, and there is no tension in attention. It just happens to be a similar word. So if there's no straining, it's not concentration. Concentration is just focusing on one thing, and there's always some straining or involved with it. It goes to attention. It facially looks like so that's not it. There's a little bit of the very young child, if you can, that in true attention, there's a little bit of the openness of a very young child in whom the conceptualizing mind hasn't started up yet. Before the child starts asking the question, what's this called? What's that? What's that? And before they start asking, why? Before all that, of course they have to go through that stage, but before that there is a moment when there's already consciousness beginning to blossom, but not yet taking form as thought. So there's a short period where the child is in that state of open attention with light shining through their eyes, and then they go. What we are then really talking about is the cessation of thinking, of having to think. Not forever, thinking still happens, but there's actually the choice not to think when there's nothing to think about, which is a lot of the time. A lot of the time, nothing is added to this moment by thinking about it. The depth, the fullness of life now, you cannot add really anything to it by thinking. Some situations require thinking, that's fine. Many situations don't require thinking, that's even better. And if you have to think, prior to thinking, enter the state of attention or no thought, just for a moment, and you will see the quality of thinking improves, the thinking that you then do, or that then happens. But to have spaces of not thinking, that's what nature offers you. Otherwise you're not really using the vastness of its wealth, nature, when you are thinking about it. You can only, the vastness of that is only accessible to you when there is the spaciousness of not thinking. It doesn't matter for how long you don't think. Don't try to stop your mind as such, because that creates a conflict in yourself, and you would perhaps try to exercise willpower you may have limited success. If you go out into nature and say, I mustn't think, and you'll probably stop breathing too. So there's no willpower that can't do that. One way of not thinking naturally is, yes, bringing attention to sense perceptions can be very helpful there. Just bring attention to sense perceptions. Then there won't be enough attention left for thinking. If you're fully attentive with your senses, there's not enough consciousness left for producing thoughts. Just you're too alert. That's a simple thing. Another one that is you can do in daily life and not just in nature is work with the present moment, accepting what is now. Whatever form this moment takes, you say, fine, this is what is. And then you will think much less. A lot of thinking is there because you're trying to get away from what is. So if you can become friendly with the present moment, you become more relaxed, open to life, and naturally the compulsive thinking mind subsides, because there's only ever the simplicity of now, of this moment. So you can do it in nature more easily than in the office, of course. You can do it in nature more easily than in the shopping mall. You can perhaps do it more easily when you're alone in nature than when you're with a friend in nature, because two people together, most people think, okay, what can we talk about now? Let's talk about the stock market. Okay. So it's probably easier alone than visiting your family. Visiting people with whom you share a lot of past. To remain clear, present, requires more intense presence. So nature then is a good place to start being present. And then a wonderful thing happens then as presence deepens. You can bring your presence anywhere you go, even visiting your relatives. Or even the shopping mall. Not that you might choose to spend more time than necessary at the shopping mall, because the compulsion to acquire, which is a substitute for a feeling of aliveness, will have left you. So the compulsion, what can I get now? Why this compulsion to buy things you don't really need? Because for a moment you get a sense of aliveness, and that moment is quite short. It's when you pay for when you pay for the stuff, and then they put it in the shiny bag, and then you say, there you are. Oh. And then you walk home, and there is the bag, and then you take it out, and then the sense of fulfillment quickly leaves you. And then so that this means, of course, another visit to the shopping mall is required. And so why that? Because for a moment you feel there's a sense of lack in most humans that comes from disconnecting